Hey, everybody. Oh, there's the song. There's some lightning. There's some thunder. Oh, boy. Here we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow geekologists, those geeks who like to go deeper and dig into those things we all geek out on. It's another episode of Systematic Geekology, and today is a What's New episode. That means we're just going to kind of dive into what's new in geek culture and pop culture. We'll have a lightning round, but then we're going to focus on a pretty big series that wrapped up on Disney Plus. Percy Jackson. My daughter will correct me on how to pronounce this name properly, but I can't do this episode alone. And I'm really excited to bring up here on YouTube. There she is, Hannah Catherine Rose. I've known her quite a long time, all her life, by the way, because this is my daughter, Hannah. Hannah, how are you doing? Where are you? What are you up to today?
Today I've been doing homework. I'm a student at Appalachian State University, so I've been grinding that out. But yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you on this podcast. There have been times when we've driven in the car and she's like, Dad, can we listen to music? I'm like, no, I'm listening to a podcast, usually about surfing or Star Wars or comic books or something like that. So I'm now brought her a part of this podcast. And because she is a big geek. Yeah, you're a big geek around this whole book series, and you're really excited about this live stream of Percy Jackson, and really excited about that. I keep mispronouncing this thing. All right, and being another big super fan of Percy Jackson, that is Allie. Allie's been on the show before. She's also related to one of the hosts here at Systematic Geekology. But Allie, how are you doing? What are you up to? Where are you today?
I'm pretty good. I'm just chilling now. I went to church and shopping, but then I came back. So yeah. I'm in Kentucky too, though, just so you know.
In Kentucky, church, shopping, now chilling, now we're geeking out. That doesn't sound like a bad Sunday to me. And before we even hit play and record on this, Hannah and Allie we're geeking out on books, audiobooks, and all those things. There was a confession that Hannah doesn't listen to the podcast, but she does listen to audiobooks now, and that changed her life.
I've been indoctrinated to the audiobook world, so I feel like that's a pipeline to the podcast world. Yeah, like that's where I'm headed.
It's a gateway. It's a gateway. I agree. And we have one more with us. Here we go. This is my friend Justin. We're colleagues in Chapel Hill. He's right down the road from me at a pretty awesome church, and we hang out on occasion. And I'm glad that we brought him here to Systematic Geekology. And I'm curious because Justin is on Franklin Street, and there was a pretty big game last night. No, I'm not talking about the Super Bowl. I'm talking about Carolina versus Duke, and Justin is a pastor here in Chapel Hill, but I also went to Duke Divinity School, and his church is right there. So I wanted, how was your property? Was there anything damaged? Were there cups and beer cans in your yard? Because I saw the crowds that was on Franklin Street last night, and it was pretty big.
It was pretty big. You know, the folks usually just leave the church property alone. I mean, they see it as some something that helps them, with these victories. I have no idea why they do this. Only one occasion, years back, did someone try to break in to go and ring the church bell, and they were assisted by a former senior pastor of the church. So, that's the only time we've ever had any troubles with this.
Well, maybe it's like Camp Half-Blood, where there's a barrier, you can't get in unless you're allowed in onto church.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Well, this is a What's New episode. We're going to go around the horn what we're geeking out on. We won't go too deep just yet. There's a series we're going to focus in on, but for now, we're just going to go around the horn in the lightning round. There it is. Did you hear it?
No. Okay, we can make it.
There it is. I think it was stolen, and then someone must have found this thing and gone from there.
Returned a little bit too late. Just a little bit too late. Just a little bit.
There it is.
Right after the summer solstice.
Yeah, there we go. So what are we geeking out on, folks? What are we geeking out on? What's new? Hannah, we'll go with you first. You mentioned the series you're going. You're a big. You love books. You love TV shows.
I love storytelling.
So what's something you geeking out on?
Okay, so as of last night, quite literally, because it just came out. Super into the new Amazon Prime reboot of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So good. I literally started it last night and I'm done like with the series already. That's how much I loved it. Like the writing's phenomenal, the pacing. Like in like episode 1, right off the bat, like already invested in the characters. Like probably from the first scene. Like first scene, you're already invested in them. So really good. And then I trust Donald Glover with like anything he does, and the acting in it and everything. He was like a co-creator, I think. So it was just so like I can't even describe how good it is. It was a really good commentary on like marriage and partnership, but like within this extreme bounds of like they're on crazy spy missions, but it's also like they make a comment of like it's not like we could get divorced, like commitment, like commentary on like commitment. And so it's like, oh, it was just so good to see like how well it was played out, because I was really excited about it, and it turned out awesome. So
how many episodes is this season?
8, but they're really long. Like they're 45 minutes. I think the last one is like 60 minutes, like an hour.
So you watched all 8 episodes yesterday?
Listen, me and my sister had a sleepover, and we didn't have anything else to do. So
no, my sister and I do that all the time.
Why would I
no
sleep
judgment.
if I could,
There's no
if I
geek
could
shaming.
consume media?
No geek shaming. No judgment here. Sometimes we find a bingeable series and we go for it. That is not something
I haven't, like,
you're
besides Percy Jackson, I haven't really been watching a ton of TV. I mean, we've watched The Bear together a little bit, but which is good. So also that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna talk about that. Allie, what is something you're geeking out on? What's new in pop culture? There's no shortage of content out there. Things we can geek it out. What are you geeking out on?
So this actually came out in like 2020. It's a podcast, and I don't listen to a ton of podcasts.
Right.
But I saw like a TikTok sort of talking about this one, and it's called "Who Pooped on the Floor of My Wedding." And it's literally about exactly what it sounds like. It's a like true story. This couple got married on a boat. They invited 100 of their family and friends, like just their closest. They get on the boat. They take off. They like have the ceremony, and then at the reception, they notice someone has pooped on the floor of this boat, and it had to have been one of their 100 closest family or friends that were there. And I see
the setup. So it's like a murder mystery, but you're trying to solve who defecated.
Yes, and it's like is it like a closed room mystery? I forget what they call it, but it's very much that. But what they do is they get one of their friends who loves murder mystery podcasts to act as their head detective, and she's literally she doesn't take anything seriously. She has a super thick like Australian accent, and she's like having them hook up to lie detector tests and asking people like, did you poop on the floor of this wedding? But it's like a kid's toy that she's having them like hooked up to, and it's hilarious.
Have you listened to the podcast Normal Gossip?
I haven't even heard of that one.
It's like basically every episode is like they just take stories from like other people, and it's just like normal gossips from like random people's like friend groups and lives, and they like talk about it on the podcast and like get people to just like tell like normal like stuff
I would
like
listen to that.
Reminds me of that.
Again, like we're talking about, there's no shortage of like superhero, sci-fi, fantasy, but there's a never ending like just well of resources when it comes to podcasts. Anybody can record and do a podcast, do it well. We're in the game, right? But like, man, that's fascinating. There's so many, like, I don't need another podcast in my feed, but I think Justin and I, who are ministers who do weddings, who've seen a lot of things at weddings, that's one thing I can honestly say I've never seen or experienced, but doesn't surprise me that it's happened. There's definitely been some family issues and drunk folk who get too crazy at reception in terms of like solving the mystery of who was on the floor.
Well, and like halfway through the like series, because it's just like one season of this podcast, and the episodes start out like 15 minutes long. But halfway through, they end up having to get like a submarine expert from the Navy because someone spotted an illegal submarine halfway through their like wedding trip on this boat. So there were a lot of twists and turns. It was good.
Man,
It was really good.
Justin and I could do a podcast about the crazy things we've seen at
You really
ceremonies and
could.
events.
We could. It'd be fun.
Monetize this, Justin. We could do this. We could do this. Cool. Thanks for sharing, because that's really, I did not see that coming. Of all the things that geeking out, that's not one that I predicted I was going to hear about today. Justin, what are you geeking out on? What's happening?
So there is a show on Hulu, Death and Other Details, talking about mysteries, and it which occurs on a boat here in this first season, but there's no defecation anywhere that I'm aware of. But it's just a great mystery show where different episodes come from a different perspective, and there's this broader insidious plot that has been going on for decades, really, in the background. And I've just found it to be a very interesting show. So I binge watched that series, and the last episode just came out this past week. So Death and Other Details is a great show. And I'm pre-geeking out on the new Avatar Last Airbender series that is about to come out. Let's prepare an episode right now for that, because I am here.
When is that coming out?
I believe it premieres on February 22nd.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It's like next week, 3 weeks. It's like very close. Oh boy.
The previews are there's so much fidelity to the cartoon. This is the Avatar Last Airbender that we've been waiting for, live action at least.
That's so amazing, because like literally second to like the Percy Jackson series coming out, I've been so excited about that. But I think I've been so focused on like Percy Jackson that I've been just forgetting that Avatar is coming out. And like I would literally sit in my dad's office at the church and like watch all the Avatars.
You were raised on that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and it has a similar story to Percy Jackson, in the sense that, like, people were fans of the books, and then it became a movie, and then people were disappointed with the movie, and then here comes the show to try to correct and try to capture what the books are about. And I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is so popular as a cartoon series, and people loved it so much. We've done episodes about it on this podcast, and then the movie, people were excited, and then weren't quite that excited, or let's say there was a little disappointment, and then so now them doing this, and this has gone to some rewrites too, and reshoots and I don't know. There's been a lot of efforts been made to make this show. So it coming up, I think pre-geeking out and looking at the trailer, which leads, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and so the Bad Batch season 3 animated Star Wars TV show coming up. The trailer was really good. There's not a lot of Star Wars because of the strike. There isn't a lot of Star Wars content. Well, I guess there's some shows coming up people are anticipating, but they've been on hold. So this is the first one for a while people are ready to jump onto, and I'm excited for that. So geeking out on trailers and what's coming up. I was making a note in my daily planner of the movies and the TV shows. Things are coming out, so I can keep out with it. I'll share that I'm geeking out on. I'm finally watching The Bear on Hulu, and people have suggested this show for a long time about the writing, about what's going on in the kitchen and the bear itself. And so our family is FaceTiming and watching it together, a show that we're watching. So Hannah's been a part of that process. And my brother is a cook, and he's a biscuit chef. And there are things that people are saying in the show to one another in the kitchen that I did not know was lingo that I've heard my brother say, that I'm like, now I know why when I'm telling my brother something, he goes, heard. I'm like, oh, now I know why he said. I thought he was just being short with me, but no, it's kitchen lingo. But it's a fascinating show, and the actors. I think so that actress who plays the young chef on there, she she hosted Saturday Night Live last night and nailed it. She was so good on Saturday Night Live. She revealed on Saturday Night Live in her opening monologue that she started in New York as like a open mic night comic and going around doing those things. And she was pretty at the very beginning, like had to hold back tears, how important, how great it was that she was on Saturday Night Live and her life. And she was so good on that show. Now I'm like, oh, now I know why she's so good on The Bear. She has those kind of improv acting comedy chops that can roll with people in a fast paced kitchen kind of thing.
She's really picking up speed too, like as an actress, because like I was watching, me and my roommates have been like rewatching Abbott Elementary, and she's like the sister in Abbott Elementary. Like I didn't notice how many things she has been kind of creeping up in until I rewatched it. And I'm like, she's so good in everything she does. Like
Hannah, did you mention Abbott Elementary?
I may have. It's coming up too. That's also coming out soon.
It is.
Or this week? This week?
I think it's this week because aren't
This
you?
Wednesday.
Yeah, Hannah's coming into town from her wife's like thing at Meredith, and then so we could watch it. Yeah, that's another thing. I kind of pre-geeking out about shows that are getting ready to happen because the strike put everything on hold, and now they're just going to start rolling out these things. So yeah, Abbott Elementary is another show we enjoy, and yeah, excited about that. Any other things that you're geeking out on in the lightning round that we could share real fast before we go into the main event? Anything
My
else?
other one was Atla, and you covered it.
There you go. There you go. What's your like hype meter for that, Allie? Like how excited are you? Cautiously optimistic? Are you hyped? How are you feeling about this?
So for Percy, it was very much pure excitement, and I saw the trailer and I heard all the stuff from Rick along the way. I was like, yeah, this is like pure. I'm really excited. Like I can't wait for it to happen, but I feel like I know sort of what I'm gonna get. But the Avatar, they've been doing like a bunch of, press obviously leading up to this, but like not damage control, but they've been putting out things like what we ended with is in no way what our intentions started off as, but they didn't say for the better or for the worse. So I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And then they were like, so the original Avatar is very much like geared for kids, but I think everyone can enjoy.
Yeah.
But they were like, this one's geared for adults. But my knowledge on this,
Percy Jackson too.
It's
like
geared.
They concept the Percy Jackson in terms of like I feel like this one's so much like geared for kids, like which we can talk about that later. But like yeah.
Well, it's like you've grown. Like if you who grew up on it, you're now adults. You're in college, right? Out of college, getting jobs. So it's aged up. They've done that with Star Wars. They've done that with other things where you start off at a certain age with a fandom or a narrative or a story, and then you start growing up with it. You know, Harry Potter did that, right?
Yeah.
Like you start off with that first book. They're very much young, and then you get up to the really adult themes, or just dealing with life as you're older in life. So I think that's important to, that's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, time for the main event. Booyah. There we go. Percy Jackson, season 1. As we talk about this, it was a book and then it's a movie and now it's a TV show. Season 1 on Disney Plus just wrapped up. I guess there's going to be another season. I don't know if there's talks of that or not. But I was hoping that we could kind of go around the horn and just share kind of our relationship to this IP, this fandom. Where do we start with this? Did we start with just this series? Did we start with the books? Did we start with the movie and then go read the book? Those kind of things. Justin, we'll start with you first. What is your relationship to this story?
Yeah, so I'm on my second round of kids who have been reading the books. So I've got 3 sons, and my eldest, who is 17, read through all of the Percy Jackson books and then began to expand into the wider Percy Jackson universe of books as well. So, I just gave all of my money to that author during those days. And here now, I think because he'd heard that the show was going to come out, my youngest, who is is 10, began to read the first book, and so I'm kind of reliving it with him. He is more conversant about the book than my eldest was. Eldest is kind of powered through reading, and my youngest really wants to talk about what he's reading a little bit more. And so it's been fun to see him talk with his older brother about it. They've been listening to podcasts about Percy Jackson here and there together, or about mythology together. And then what my youngest said he was going to do is he was going to read the book, and he would only watch an episode when he'd already read through the content in the book. And so the episodes were his reward, and I think he just watched the final episode just this weekend. So he's all the way through book 1 and has started book 2. So that's been my relationship with Percy Jackson. It's been a lot of fun to walk through it with 2 kiddos.
So you've read those books yourself, or you just kind of read along with them?
I have listened to the audio form here and there, but mostly it's just been vicariously through the kids.
Yeah. Conversant. That's a good word. You threw conversant out there. That's kind of what we do with this is my geekology. We geek out on thing, and then we have conversation around those things. That's a good word. Yeah, that's good. Allie, what's your relationship with this IP and book and story?
Yeah. So I've been obsessed with Percy Jackson for years. Like, I feel like I was really close to Percy's age in the book whenever I like started reading them. But they had all come out, so I could like binge them. But I actually I saw the movie first. And I remember, like, I vividly remember I went to the movie theater with 2 of my friends for an academic team party. Like, so way back when. And we saw the trailer for it, and they were freaking out. And I was like, okay, well, now I feel left out because I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And they were like, well, it's coming out in a little bit and we should all go. So we went. And then I felt even more left out because they were like, they brought their the Camp Half-Blood Demigod Diaries book with them, which was like the field guide to the characters and everything. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. That was fantastic. And then I read the book and I was like, no, that makes sense. I know why you're mad. I understand why you're mad now.
Yeah.
So right after the movie, I read all of those books. And then I started I was caught up whenever he started releasing the spinoff series. So I feel like I've pretty consistently been giving Rick all of my money since I was 12. With all of his series, because I anything he puts out, I will read. I'll give it a chance. And they never disappoint, so that was good. But now I think it's been awesome because so whenever I had read it, like I had said before, my friends had already had that phase and talked about it, so they didn't want to talk about it as much, and they weren't as obsessed as I was. And my sister, because they do that, because I liked it so much, she was like, I'm not reading that. And now finally she started reading them, and we'll talk about them. And then people on TikTok and Instagram are starting to talk about them more. And all of these, because I used to follow a lot of Percy Jackson fan pages on Instagram, and slowly they changed into fan pages for other things. And now they're switching back to Percy Jackson, and I'm like, yes, this is so great. This is everything I ever wanted.
So I'm glad you're on this episode. That's so good. I think, FOMO can also be with the things we geek out on too. You see people geeking out on those things, it could be contagious. I want to be a part of that. What is that fandom like? Yeah. We know fandoms can go toxic too, but Rick's been pretty active on social media too, the hype and sharing pictures and pre-production photos and cast pics and things. So that was kind of fun leading up to it, and then him being really excited and being a part of the creation process for Disney. I think that was the movie was people's disappointment is that he just kind of released it and said, it's yours, do what you want. And it was a different era and time back then, but they took the movie and ran with it, and the people were disappointed. And then he got more control of it to redo it for Disney. So I think that's pretty good. Hannah, now remind me, did you have the book and read it first and then I read it, or did I read it first and then you had the book? I remember reading the book, but when did you read this? I know you're okay.
Listen, okay.
Okay, here we go.
I read all of it's kind of similar to what you were saying, Allie, but like I read all of the original series, and then as he was like releasing the Heroes of Olympus, that kind of line of books, or series, like right as I was kind of finishing the first ones, which was really cool because I got to like, there was something so magical as a kid of like going and getting a new book as it came out, like from like Barnes and Nobles or the store, like that. I remember that being such a big deal for me, and so definitely relate to that. But I think I read all the Percy Jacksons first, and then I was like, I didn't have anybody to talk about it with because my sister didn't read it. A lot of my friends like did, but like weren't super into it, and so I think that's when I was like, Dad, please read this.
Yeah.
and
I read that first one, and it's a YA novel about Greek mythology, and I like Greek mythology. I like religious conversations. I like the hero's journey, and so, man, how he told that story and the wittiness behind it, and the side conversations, and getting to just the style of how he wrote that book was really a lot of fun. And so later on, so Hannah, did you go see the movie later? Again, it's blurry. Back in the 2008s, 9s, when this come out, 10s.
I think I was like at an age, so I read them. I remember I was in like late elementary school, like early middle school. I remember like reading the books, and that was the first series of like me and my sister shared a room. We were in an apartment, and I remember going to the bathroom at night, and like they would be like, okay, like time to go to bed, and I would go and sit in the bathroom for hours in the bathtub and read all the books because I was so invested in the story. And like I think I did have that before, but not in the same way of like loving the characters so much in the storylines that I was like, I would rather not sleep, and I would rather sit in this bathtub in a comfortable tile and read this book. And so I remember doing that.
I know you did that, but that's fine. That's good.
Oh, for sure. I would literally just sit in the bathroom and read it for hours. And like, why are you so tired? I was like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, your mom is a language and literacy professor, right? So we encourage a lot of literacy and reading, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, but I don't even remember like putting it together that there was a movie. I don't remember the time that I did that until I was like, oh, there's a Percy Jackson movie, I guess I'll watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, it was entertaining, and I still think it's entertaining. But like that can't be contested, that the first movie, entertaining. Sea of Monsters, that should be wiped off the face of the planet, and that should not even, I would rather that just literally disappear from existence. But the first movie, you can't deny that it's entertaining and that it's like, fun. But I was also at a point where I was like, what are they doing? Even at a young age, I was like, what are they doing with this? But yeah, I don't remember the movie being like, I don't think I saw it in theaters. I think I just saw it when it like came out on I don't know.
Yeah, my eldest son was properly offended by the movie, and then we lived in Nashville for a bit, and we went to the Parthenon, where the Parthenon scene was filmed from the movie, just to have a little bit of nostalgia in there. But yeah, he did not enjoy the movie at all.
I just went to the Parthenon this summer. Lost my mind because they had like a little area in honor of the movie. And I was like, the movies like aren't even that good, but I still really geeked out.
Yeah.
I think part of it too is like, I remember how I felt, and like this is another thing, but like I was a big Stranger Things fan when I was in like late, like middle, early high school. And I think that there's something so special about, the characters, when you're reading them, you are their age, and you're reading the book, and you're like, these are kids my age, and they're doing like amazing things and like having these adventures. And then to watch the movie and them being like adults, I just remember, like, I remember watching Stranger Things and being like, oh my gosh, these kids who are the actors who are playing the kids are like kids, and they're my age. And I remember that being so cool. And there's something special about having someone your age representing the characters that you love so much. So I think also with the movie, that was also something that for me, especially watching it as that kid, was like, these are full-grown adults and these are not the characters.
Like, well, and also, like, when I was talking to my sister, she said he just looks so young, and she kept saying that throughout the trailers and, like, after the first episode, and I was like, he's supposed to be 12, and she's like, I just remember him being, like, 18 or, like, 19 or something, and I'm like, that's because you've only seen the movie. Like, they rewrote it, but it was always supposed to be, like, a coming of age story where he's 12 and here, fight a giant monster and jump off a building, like, so
Yeah. Good stuff. Like all that's just so relevant because there's do you read the book first or watch the movie? Watch the movie first, read the book. If you love a book so much, do you even like go down the movie because you're scared you're gonna let it go? Or do you bother with the book because you love the movie, or can it go deeper? I think all those stories are good, but like that leads us into like, all right, we've seen this show, it's debuted, it's over, first season's done. How does this show compare to the book? And what did you think overall of this series? I highly enjoyed it. I loved watching. It's been a while since I read the books. I thought I was remembering what was happening in the books as I was watching the different things, but I just loved how they modernize an age-old myth and the hero's journey, and they brought it over here. So Olympus, a part of the Empire State Building, or all these different spots where it's integrated into like the culture and time here. I think is just a neat way to retell the story and let people see, whether for the first time or age-old understanding of the myths and the hero's journey that it tells. Hannah, all right, you watched the show, you were very excited, you were a Wednesday warrior and being there when it dropped on Disney Plus and watched it as it dropped. How do you think this compared, and are you satisfied with what they did?
Yeah, I think going into it knowing this is a kind of like we were talking about earlier, this is a show that's made for kids, and I think they stuck to that heart of it. And honestly, for me, as much as I would like to see, I mean, everyone wants something that's like more catered to like what they like would connect with, but like it gave me satisfaction to know that there are kids out there who connect to the story so well and love those characters, that see themselves in the show, and like it's for kids. And I personally was okay with that. I have like roommates who watched it and was like not into it because of the audience it catered to, but I think they did an amazing job with really keeping true to the heart of the characters themselves and giving more like development, especially not necessarily with the books, because like you can't really do books justice all the time with characters, but I think definitely with the movie, obviously, like I think they did such a good job of staying true to the characters' soul and who they are and their attributes that make them the characters that they are, while also, I mean, they diverge from the original plot with a lot of the like especially within chapters of like hero's journey. They go to this place and then they meet this monster, and then they go to this place and they meet this different monster. Like they switched it around a little bit, did different things, but for me, as long as they're staying true to the characters, and that's really why we connect with it as much as we do anyways, at least for me, I was fine with it. And I think the fact that Rick was so involved and instrumental in those changes really meant a lot to me, because it's his story, it's his brainchild. He's had 10 years to really think about what he would do differently. And in those 10 years, like culture changes, authors' views changes on their own story. So I'm really glad that I think he made the changes that he did, and who am I to tell someone that they can't change their story in the way they want to?
Right.
I think it was really cool. Especially like with the changes of like different characters of different race and stuff is hard for people, I think, going in. Some people, especially with Annabeth,
right,
trying to kind of come to terms with that. But I'm like, number one, if Rick doesn't care, I mean, I don't think I would have cared anyways, but if he especially doesn't with his own character, then who are we to like care about something like that, especially if the character's everything else is the same. I think it's awesome. And sorry, I'm going really long here, but I think representation also has been a really key part of Percy Jackson in general, like the first book especially, but throughout, like ADHD and learning disabilities has been something that they've talked a lot about and gave representation to kids with like learning disabilities of like, this is something that makes you powerful and special. Like Percy's like, I have ADHD, and they're like, well, that's because you're like a warrior, you're like a Greek demigod, like warrior. So like that, I think that was important for that group. So I think that like representation for different groups of people and for kids to see has always been a part of Percy Jackson. So I think putting that to the show too is really cool, and I really liked seeing that kind of transfer to a different way now.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
sorry, that
Good
was really
thought.
long.
Good thought.
That was
Yeah,
so
threw a
good.
comment up there from Christian, one of our hosts, who, you know, he felt was a good adaptation of the book. And, you know, sometimes what you're playing with time, you know, every story you have to, there's the economy of how you're going to spend your time and energy, and with what character or what setting or world building. And so I do think it set things up well, like he said, and he's excited about season 2. That's fun. So yeah. Atlee, you know, you're a big fan. What did you think? What did you think of the show and how it related to your one of your favorite stories?
So I would just like to ditto everything that Hannah said.
Yeah.
Because like all of that, like Rick, whenever he started out making the books, and I said this last time, but like he did it for his son who had like ADHD and all these things. And he was like, well, my son really likes Greek mythology in those stories, so I'm going to make a story about Greek mythology where he can insert himself as the main character.
Nice.
And his like learning disabilities and his like daily struggles turn into the character's daily power. And like reading the book, I really related with Percy in those things. And that was before I realized I had ADHD, and then I was diagnosed and I was like, no, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, just the way like everything was changed, not everything, sorry. The way that some of the things that were changed about the story, I just think hearing him, he's like, you know, I wrote this book like 15 years ago, and like the movie was like 10 years ago, and all these things, and I've had a lot of time and interactions with people, and I think about this a lot because that's my job. So there are obviously like certain things that I wanted to change, and he used the like TV show to hit some of those points. And I think one of those that you can see was obviously like Grover's character. Like you immediately see more of his personality.
Yeah.
And I think he's really the heart of like the trio. And I think in the books, you don't realize that as clearly as you realized it in the TV show. But yeah, I just think he made the changes that he wanted to make. I think he hit like all of the key points. And then there were some things that were changed up a little bit. So I think as someone who's read the book a billion times, it was still very interesting for me. And I still got that feeling of what's going to happen next. So yeah, I think I just think he handled everything so well. And I don't know if you guys saw the like documentary of like the making of the show and stuff.
No, it's there. I haven't watched that yet, but it did pop up right after I
so
finished.
good.
Like, ooh,
Yeah.
something else to watch. There's something there. More content.
So you get to see like it's a lot of Walker and Leah. And the whole time they're talking, I'm just like, these kids are their characters. Like they were typecast so hard into these roles. So like for me, like he couldn't have chosen better people. Like in their interviews, when they interact with each other, like how they've changed from when they first started to when they've grown up in like even the documentary that you got to see, it's like they're growing up in the same way that I would have imagined like Annabeth and Percy to grow up. Like the way that Leah, I feel like she's gotten stronger and like more self-assured, even though she was always doing everything right in the beginning. Percy's just like a prankster and a jokester and sassy, and I love that.
When they cast him, I remember watching his movie on Netflix with like Brian, what's his face? I don't know his name. And I remember literally before they even cast him as Percy, I was like, kind of reminds me of Percy Jackson. And then they cast him because everybody was, I like feel like so many people were thinking that. And They do.
I remember. So I didn't watch the movie with Ryan Reynolds, but I saw his interview where he he in his audition for that part with that movie quoted the entirety of like the beginning of Deadpool back to Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And that's how he got that part. And he was doing it in this like interview again, and I was like, I don't like that's how I knew this kid. And I saw he was cast as Percy, and I was like, if that is the Deadpool monologue kid, they crushed it. They did fantastic.
You bring up another point. Like this is another side thing too, but like in terms of like the stories we love, and then it being made into like a TV show, streaming or movie, and then you envision like who you want to play these characters, and the kind of the fan casting, and then the who's actually cast, and then the judgments put on the person before they even do the thing. Like I remember when Gal Gadot was cast as Wonder Woman, people were like, "What? Like this skinny person? How's he going to play like this Amazon woman?" Da, 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 da. And then like, man, she was the best thing to come out of the DC universe. Like how she embodied Wonder Woman was great. And the same thing's happening now with the new DC universe and James Gunn doing it. They just cast Supergirl with the girl from House of the Dragon, and I forgot her name, but like
Millie something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she's so good in House Dragon. And I love the story. One of my favorite graphic novels and stories of the last couple years, is the Supergirl story that they're going to make into a movie called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. It's an incredible book, incredible art. Read it now. That's what they're going to base the movie off of. And then typecasting her. Yeah, she's smaller than I imagine, like Supergirl, but man, I cannot wait to see how she embodies this thing. And so, yeah, you're talking about people who are fans excited about someone playing a role that you're excited about. There's that element of like, yeah, see them in that, or if you don't, just wait to see how they do this first, and then then go from there. I think that's important. So much fun. Justin, all right, so you're seeing this through your own kids' eyes as you're watching it with them, having conversations. What how are they feeling? How are you feeling about this show, and then how it compares to the book?
Well, and I really wish Lawson would have come on. He was a bit too shy to do it.
Okay.
At 10, because it's what's been fun is to watch some of these episodes with him and to see him say, they left this out, or this person is supposed to be in this scene, and just trying to ask questions about why you make the choices that you make when you're doing this kind of thing. And I think he sees the utility of some of those choices in order to move the plot along for a series that has just less time. But this is the first time I think he's really done that with any adaptation of a book. And so it's been fun to see him both affirm and then question some of the choices that were made along the way. But ultimately, he's really enjoyed the series and how it's held enough fidelity to the book to make it feel like he is watching these characters that he's imagined in his head. Which has been a lot of fun. Also, I think early on, he had a little conversation with me about representation and how he's enjoying who the characters are on TV and the way that they were cast.
Nice.
Which is as a young African American boy, he's really interested in representation as he sees it in these different shows.
Yeah, that's important.
I thought it was really interesting and like powerful also how I felt like Rick might have like also protected Leia a little bit in terms of like it was kind of like just blind casting, because Percy doesn't have black hair in the series. It's like all the entire time like they talk about his black hair, and then Walker was cast, everyone's like, well, is he gonna dye his hair? And then they were like, he doesn't have to do that. So like that kind of set the stage. Like Luke isn't blonde like he was. Like everyone's kind of different than how it is in the book, but that's showing, I think Rick was trying to do like across the board. It doesn't matter what the characters look like, their character is the same. So I thought that was really cool. Like that kind of protected Leia a little bit more from some people or media. I mean, people are going to say what they're going to say, but I thought that was also really interesting how it's kind of
I think it was also really like when Leah was talking about it, she was like, I knew being cast in this role, and like other people were telling me too, like you need to prepare yourself because there will probably be there will be backlash.
Yep.
And she said that Rick told me, like, he sat me down and was like, listen, I want you to know that they can say whatever they want, but I'm the creator of this story and I chose you. And I was like, so great. And like,
Powerful.
I think he makes a really good point of being like all of the demigods in all of his series, like even with the different like mythologies, he makes it a point to be like, they're all like regular, normal, like everyday kids when you see them like walking down the street, so they can look and act and be like anything. And the way that I described their appearance, especially in like this first series, had more to do with helping you envision a full story and not a lot to do with this person has to have like white hair or blue eyes or whatever. And even like whenever you go back and read the first like series, the only reason I feel like Annabeth's hair, like you even know it's blonde and curly, is because Percy is so in love and obsessed with her that he's like, this girl, I love watching her pretty blonde curls bounce in the wind or whatever. I'm like, he would have loved her brown pixie cut, you know? He's obsessed. Like,
absolutely. And I think, and I'm like in no way trying to compare like representation for me and for another young Black girl. Like I'm not trying to compare that, but like for me, I had like dumb blonde jokes made to me, and Annabeth was always like her being like smart was a really big thing for her, and to have her be blonde in a certain light also with me was like, I'm dumb blonde jokes kind of felt a little also. So that in comparison to like a young Black girl being like, Annabeth is smart, like young Black girls can be smart, like that is really cool to see that like translate of like, this is how I felt even in a small way with her, so this is how like another young kid can also feel. That was really cool for me too to think about. Like that.
That's good. And I also like that. I mean, I think all of us here have been in consumed a lot of stories and media, and then Justin, your kids are enjoying and catching the fever of loving to read, and so we're also seeing we're having Rick also model for us how to be a good steward of their story, and so perhaps we're there watching how to tell a story, how to manage your time and stewardship of these characters and things. So who knows, some of us may write a story at some point, or a fantasy novel, or some kind of novel, but to be able to model, say, this is my story, I'm going to change it how I want. I mean, George Lucas did some of that with Star Wars and the re-release and that kind of stuff. People are like, wait a minute, Han shot first. I even have acted that way, but it's his story, it's his characters. Let him do what he wants with it, and those kind of things. I think that's important. Well, moving to the story itself, like what are some themes there? I mean, it's kind of the basics: hero journey, it's Greek mythology, gods fighting, and then mortals, kind of under their boot, and then you have demigods who are caught between the two. What are some things? What's a theme or two that jumped out for you in this series that you're like, oh, that was pretty important? Allie, we'll start with you this time. Was there a theme? You could probably go on all day about the theme of the first book, but in terms of this series on Disney Plus, was there something that was highlighted that you're like, I like what they did with that particular theme or question?
I think, I don't even know how to put this into words, but the specific scene that like I think they capture is when Annabeth is like talking to Hephaestus, and she's like, I don't want to be like all these different people who just want like fame and glory. I want to care about like actual people. And she like witnesses someone else doing that, and then is like, okay, I recognize that I am like that, and I'm gonna make that change for the better, and also fight for that when it comes up in other like situations with other people.
That's good.
That's a theme that they do throughout, I honestly, all of his books, because they all have a sticking up for the little guy mentality.
But I think they did that really, really well in this first book. Even like in that one scene, I think you can see like you can point out, oh, they were setting up for this scene and like all these different parts and like from the series. So yeah, I think that was really nice. And this is a trope, not a theme, but I really love how they did the found family trope.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
I just like it. I don't know. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, real quick with my theme, I just again, like you can go on a hero's journey, but like you don't do it alone. You have to get your team, you have to
Yeah.
get your friends. There's community, there's family, and then there's found family. And I think that I think that aspect that in these stories are so done so well. Again, you have the trio of these three who are together, who are friends on this quest together, and you see that in other parts too. Like three's a good number, but again, like that you don't go through this alone. There are struggles, and they try to do it alone. They're like, this is my journey, this is mine. The struggle of like, this
Mhm.
is about me or what I need to do, not you. But they're like, no, we're not leaving you, or no, we're in this together. I think that's a big part of life and how we do life and community and family and friendship together. I think that was portrayed very, very well in this for all ages, adults or those who are preteens or teens.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, in that beautiful scene where Grover is arbitrating between them, and just this core aspect of being on a journey together, being in friendship with one another, is the ability to tell the truth and to be vulnerable with one another.
Mhm.
And I really thought that was well done, and that theme of friendship as making the hero's journey possible really stood out. For me. Another thing that I'm just totally taking a turn. Can I take a turn?
Oh yeah, make a turn, make a turn.
um, is the so this is not necessarily a theme per se, but I spent more time thinking about the misty veil between the worlds and
Okay.
what you can see and what you can't see spiritually. As I just didn't attend to it the first time through as much as this time, but I thought, gosh, in what ways is our world and our spiritual world similar?
Mm,
And this,
mm.
veil of the things we can see spiritually, the things that we don't see or don't want to see spiritually. So anyway, I spent more time thinking about that, but that's just kind of me being in dad preacher mode right there. But yeah.
I was gonna go off. I like this is a two kind of different things, but I also thought about it in kind of like because I wrote down and I was thinking about how much the show really focused and a lot of the main focus of especially the first book is like parent-child relationships.
Mm,
Ironic I'm talking about this, but like parent-child relationships and how I mean the main drive for Luke to steal that bull was because
yes.
my dad doesn't care about me. My dad doesn't
Mm.
like talk to me. This instance happened with my mom when I was a kid that
Mm,
kind of made me resentful for them. And then, Percy's upset about his dad. Athena, gives Annabeth a gift, but then is like, doesn't like takes or gives whenever they want. The really big theme of the books up until the end is like, we're their children, but also they're all knowing beings. And like, what does that relationship look like? I know they still care about me. Some of them still care about me, but like, it doesn't feel like that way all the time. And it's really the way it's still like a God spiritual kind of thing that you can tie into that while
mhm.
also obviously quite literally being like there's a parent child relationship here is
Yeah.
really interesting throughout the books to see really the commentary on how parents and kids and god interact with one
Mm,
another and how that feels sometimes neglectful. What do you do or not do with the love you have between one, like it's just really
Mm.
interesting, and I think they did a really really good job with that in the show, especially with some of the tension of like wondering if your parent like reach out or not, and having a single mom like Percy's their relationship, they focus so much about his relationship with his mom in the show, and I thought that was really, really well done. It's really shown in the book, but like in the show it just was phenomenally done. And you see little hints at their parents throughout, and like him and his dad's relationship, but I think that's something that could be really expanded in later seasons if it gets renewed. And it has such a good foundation now of like the core of a lot of the books is like, the relationship, why a lot of the fighting is happening is families. And even they were talking about like, our family's weird. They're like, and the funniest thing was when he was like, it's the very end, last episode, and he was like, I was having a dream, and he was like, oh, she's like, who? And he's like, grandpa. And she's like, please don't call like grandpa. But it's talking about like dynamics of like, how do you deal with like a family member that's actually literally like Lord of all evil? Like, you know, you're like, what do I do with that? Do I still call him grandpa?
To kill you and all your friends.
And how am I related, or my life mirrored in that, and who am I going to? Like Ali said, do I want to? I see what those who've come before me or my parents are. Do I want to be like them or be better than them? I think it's so good.
Last book. I don't want to like spoil, but I mean Percy's decisions. That literally is like the basis of all of Percy's decisions. Yeah. Also, sorry, I know I'm talking. The way they did Percy's like fatal flaw, which is like personal loyalty to his friends. They did that so well, like showing a little bit in each episode, but especially when they're on the big balcony, like not balcony, like whatever that arch was. And Annabeth was like, logically, I should be the one to fight this person because you got to go save your mom. And he was like, for sure, logically. And then was like, nope, I'm going to save my friends. And even at that point, he was like resistant of like, I'm not even their friends, but you know, he has that loyalty to the people he cares about. And so that was really done really well.
And that's something like I think I love about the TV show is that you get more of everyone else's perspective as well. Because in the book, because it's all from Percy's perspective,
right?
You get him shutting them out, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's such a hero. He fights all this, and then a while later, they're like, oh, we're so glad you're okay. But in the show, you can see like their anguish as he made that decision, and they're like, well, what the heck? So I think that's really cool too. I think that was done so well, and I didn't even plan to like having other people's perspectives. Like it didn't even cross my mind that I was going to get that with the show, and then I did, and I was like, well, yes.
I love that.
So interesting about that too. Sorry, Dad. So, like in the Heroes of Olympus books, it's Percy Jackson's perspective throughout all the five, like first, I think all 5 first books, and then you get Heroes of Olympus, which is like everybody else's. It like switches off every chapter.
He's only mentioned in the first book. He's not even in the first book.
Exactly. So then Annabeth's perspective comes in those books, and you see Annabeth's perspective. In one of the books, I think she says, like, I've had a crush on Percy since I was 12 years old. Yeah. That's Lightning Thief, right? Throughout the entire series, the first series, it's Percy's perspective, and you only hear about, like, oh, there's some romance with Annabeth, like, near the end, the last couple books, you know? Yeah. Not that it's not hinted at. But then creating the show, knowing that Annabeth has had a crush on him since she was 12, that's been written in the books in this Heroes of Olympus series, you get to see clearly how she's, like, you know, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like hug him, I'm gonna do all these things, like I'm really worried for him, I don't know why, but like, so someone who's just read the first series is like, why is this moving so fast? This like wasn't that clear in the first, but like you have the context of like Annabeth said in that book series that she liked him all that time, so that's also really cool, like perspective.
I like that. I think the reason that these stories are so timeless, the mythological tales, and that is because it's a microcosm or a mirror of the dynamics that we have in our own relationships. Yes. So the family relationships, this understanding of the gods being aloof or not knowing if we can trust them or not, that's a big part of not only like Greek mythology, but dang, like Christianity too. Like how we portray God is do we consider Yahweh or the Trinitarian God like Zeus in the clouds ready to throw a lightning bolt at us if we, cuss in traffic, or is that the kind of God that we see? So I think how we understand God or the spirit world or spirituality or ourselves, I think does matter how we tell it. But these tales are timeless because they get down to the core of the human condition and what we're longing for, and the hunger for family, for love, for acceptance, for purpose, those kinds of things. So that hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell has said, it's there because it's ingrained in terms of who we are as humans and what we're looking for. And so I love that. And then just going back just real quick to just like they've heard on this podcast, heard me talk a lot about like the Greek word for apocalypse, or is not like this ending final battle, but more of a revelation, unveiling, right? Like the mist lifting to be able to see things more clearly. So when you say something's apocalyptic, you're seeing it clearly for who it is and what it is. And so, yeah, people in the show are walking around not knowing really what's going around. They're like muggles, they're walking around. They don't quite understand the magic world or whatever. But there's other people who can see and go deeper with things. So I think that's a fascinating part of this story and these timeless stories that draw us in. What is it revealing to us about who we are and what we long for in our relationships? I think is pretty important. It can be apocalyptic. These stories, these IPs can be apocalyptic in a sense that it reveals to us many different things. So, man, that's so good. We've been talking a while. We're gushing all over this. I love it. I love it because it's a big IP, a lot of books, a lot of content. Man, I haven't heard. Have you guys heard on the fan sites whether it's getting renewed for a season 2? Is it happening?
So they haven't officially done anything yet. Walker went on a podcast last week and said that he isn't told a lot because he's a yapper and he will spoil it all. But he has like heard through the grapevine that they are like working on the script for season 2 now, but they didn't start it before the strike.
Right.
So now they're waiting, like they're, working out like early stages, and then they'll wait to see if they actually get renewed for season 2 before they start putting like a lot of their like full force effort into it.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it didn't, but
I'd be
I really want to get like through all 5 books because I think that would be amazing to see. I've never seen that before. Like getting through like something like Harry Potter level, but I mean it's Disney Plus and they're so fickle and they're so like they will take stuff off in a heartbeat. So that's really making me nervous.
Yeah, I think it's gotten good. It's gotten some good feedback. It seems like it's gotten some good ratings. It seems like people are excited about it. Rick's excited about it. Yeah, you never know with Disney Plus or what they try to do and how they're making money or what movies. Who knows? They might do another season and then do like, oh, we're going to do a whole movie with this cast and do like 3 books in one in a movie. Who knows what they'll do? But because they're still trying to figure out how to make money off that. But I have a feeling that this was a pretty big hit for them and probably should get a season 2. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, but yep. Oh, did Allie leave? What happened to Allie? Did her phone die? Her phone might have died. Oh, there you are. You're back.
My mom called me.
No, there you go. Speaking of family and found family, you're like, you put her on FaceTime. It's like, Mom, I want you to meet the podcast world and go from there.
So much.
Well, let's go around the horn real fast. Well, ranking, like, would we recommend this to a friend? Would we say, yep, go see it? You can give it a scale of 1 to 10. You could just say, nope, I really liked it. You don't want to label it a number, but how would you rank it? And would you recommend it to a friend, or would you recommend the book first, then the series? How would you? Justin, you first.
Yeah, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought the episodes were just the right length, especially geared toward kids, which I think was really good for them to do. I think that reading the book and then returning to the show is probably the best way to do it, but I would highly recommend to friends.
Cool. Allie, how about you?
I'm kind of weird. I always like to do the show or movie first and then do the book to add on more and like get more content that you like. Because sometimes if you read the book and then it's not what you wanted or expected, you don't like it as much. I'm like, this way I get to enjoy more things.
That's Joshua's take. That's how Joshua does it.
Yeah, it is his take.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend to everyone all the time, forever, since I was 12, literally every person I meet. So
Cool.
I'm gonna stick
You're
with that.
Percy Jackson evangelist. I love that. That's great. That's cool. Hannah, what rankings, recommendations? Where you put it?
I think it's great. I think 4.5 stars. I just didn't like the black screens that they put in between the scenes.
Yes, I was gonna say that.
I'm so sorry. I could not get over that. I loved every aspect about it, so much of it, but I can't get over. I'm very much a like cinematography nerd and like like I look a lot at what like the director does, and so I liked a lot of the shots in the show. Thought they were cool. Was not a fan of the black screens in between. It's Disney Plus. You don't have ads. What? There's no commercials
I know.
here.
I'm wondering if they did that because they're gonna throw it up on ABC.
Confused.
They're gonna throw it on ABC. They're gonna throw it on Hulu. They're gonna throw it up on another service where there's ads, and they just made time stops for the ads.
It did not do that much for me. I could not. Anyway, so that's the only reason I would give 4. I would literally lose half a star because of only that thing. Whatever. Anyways, I think I would recommend books all the time, no matter what. Books forever. Show, I think I would recommend to people who are fans of the books and people who have kids. Like kids, I don't know. I don't know if I would go up to like anyone at my college and be like, "You have to watch this new show," just because it does require a lot of like. For me, it's very nostalgic. I think it's a good show, but I don't think people can get super into it if they just have no contact. And if you're like a full blown adult, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. It's totally possible. I love it, but
I will tell you guys, before I recommend it to everyone, I let them know I'm a geek. I'm into this hardcore, like other people might never be into anything. So I'm like, I respect that. You're probably right, but I'm still gonna tell them.
That's kind of how I'm with Star Wars. That's how I'm with Star Wars. Like I go deep cut. Like I watch everything. I'll consume everything. And then like there's casual fans and then there's things you go deep on. I think you're right. I think for me, I would go. It's a solid 8 for what it is and the story it's trying to tell and how it does for the book. But I'll drop it down to half a point to 7.5 because of those black screen time stops making room for ads that's not quite there just yet. I'm like, come on, y'all, you can get back in the room and do that later. Like, why are you preempting? We're gonna do ads at some point, so let's put it up there and make room for it. I don't know.
Also, I would put it is wrapped into the 1.5 stars. I really was really disappointed in the theme music. I thought it was very basic and very like Marvel. Like it was trying to be like Marvel. If you listen to it, I'm like, that's the Avengers theme. And I wanted something more like Harry Potter where it has like a theme that like you can pinpoint it and you're like, oh, that's the Percy Jackson thing.
You needed John Williams. You just wanted John Williams. That
was really disappointing for me. I wanted like a Percy Annabeth soundtrack. You know how they have like different like things, and it just wasn't there, and it made me kind of sad. But
sorry, I'm making it sound like I'm just doing a rebuttal for. You're right. Actually, I can't even remember what the theme music was. I don't know, and I probably should, considering how many times I've watched it. But this is a separate note. Whenever they're playing the theme music, I'm staring at that art, that cover art that they did.
The art's phenomenal.
Fantastic. It was so good. But the music, you're right. I couldn't even tell you what it sort of sounded like.
And I pointed out to my roommate, and before I said it, I was like, I don't like the music. And she's like, oh, what? What do you mean you don't like the music? And then we watched the next episode. She goes, I really wish you would never have told me that because now you just made me really upset.
Well, it needs to have like Mandalorian memorable music, you're right. But the artwork, I love the artwork.
It's great.
It's the only thing I can remember from the intro and the exit.
Sorry, I couldn't.
Maybe if they turn it into a movie, like from a TV show to a movie, they'll have a grand movie score that we can remember and go back to, kind of like they did with Mandalorian. But yeah, I think you're right. We see Christian's comment up there. Thanks for chiming in, Christian, and watching live. Good point. Yeah, so let's wrap this up. We we're here on YouTube, we're here on the podcast, we're different places. We want you to smash that like button, and we want you to share this with a friend or a demigod. You might might know a demigod out there in the world, or you may not know it's a demigod. I don't know, but they're walking among us. I think Justin's heavenly and in a lot of ways divine too. So Justin, share with a friend. Go out there and keep geeking out, folks. Yeah, let us know in the comments in our socials what's new for you, the things you're geeking out on, what you thought of Percy Jackson, and how it matched up to the book. And yeah, we'll keep recommending that you read, even if it's an audiobook, you can listen to it, all those things. But everyone, we thank you for being a part. We know that there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of choices, a lot of things to geek out on, but we're glad that you're able to huddle around the campfire and geek out with us here at Systematic Geekology. And thank you to our guests and our friends here, Hannah and Allie and Justin. Man, we'll have you back, especially when there's some other things coming up. We'll geek out. All right, y'all. Take care. And remember, share the faith.